What's up, everybody? Welcome back to This American Ride podcast, where we talk about topics that affect you, the average American. What's up, and welcome back to the podcast, man. We got a good one today. I'm George. I'm here with Burt, and we got a good topic today.
Yeah, we do have a good topic, but before we get in that, it's been a minute since we've been on here recording. Anyway,
the
in
people,
the studio.
The people don't know that, but
yeah, well, you know,
but it's how we record these podcasts.
Yeah, so yeah, it's been a minute, and summer is over.
so
how do you feel about that?
I'm not. I don't know. I have mixed feelings because you know what? I like the fall weather. I like this cool kind of outside, cool morning, cool evening type of weather. We were just down in Maryland, and it got like 50 degrees at night, and it was so nice. But with that also comes the impending doom of snow and 20 and 15 degree weather and whatever New Jersey's going to throw at you. Because honestly, where we live, consistency in winter is just not something we have.
No, it really varies, but either way, it sucks. Whatever it throws at us, it usually sucks. So, yeah, I do. I'm a big fan of the fall, but just knowing what's next is real depressing.
I mean, fall football.
Yeah, football's great. Fall's great, you know. But no, yeah, we like you said, we just got back from Ocean City, Maryland, for a little getaway to the bike rally down there, and that was a great time.
Yeah.
But I just feel like this summer really just like got away from me. It just flew by, and I mean, I feel like it was just like 2 weeks ago that it was like March, and I was so looking forward to the summer and everything that it had to offer and everything we were going to do. And then I feel like none of that happened.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, mid-July, I go down in my accident, and that ate up about 3+ weeks of just being in the house, doing nothing, recovering. So that killed a huge chunk of summer, which sucks. But.
Well, for you, it killed a couple of things. I mean, one, riding, because you obviously you were down a motorcycle, you know, not for a long time actually, but for about a month.
Long enough.
But it wiped out your pool time.
It did. It killed my pool time, man. I couldn't get in the pool time. With what I had going on, man. I love my pool time. So now here we are, closing it up and sitting and waiting until June.
Getting into that climate change we call autumn.
Yeah. Yeah. This is that time of year where I just sit and think about moving south.
Ah, man. Here we go.
But yeah. So, yeah, it's been a while, but here we are, and let's have a chat.
Let's have a chat. Today we're talking about something that is honestly, I like this topic because I think everybody and a lot of people are listening to us. They all, you know, are probably mostly aware of government overreach, and that government overreach takes place in so many different aspects of our life, whether it's the food industry or the oil industry or any number of industries you could, you know, bring to the table. But this is something I feel like a lot of people might not know is happening right now. You know, it's and we're talking about the city of Chicago, and a couple of things we're talking about today. We're gonna talk about Chicago and kind of the food crisis that Chicago is having right now. And even though so many things are specific to the city of Chicago, what happens in Chicago is going to follow suit to New York, and what happens in New York is going to follow suit to San Francisco and LA. And none of these cities are immune from what's going on right now. And I feel like what's about to happen in Chicago is almost like a pilot program, like a feeler, let's see if we can press this limit with the people a little bit.
Yeah, well, if you think the leaders, I use that word very,
the people in charge,
let's not call them leaders, of cities like Chicago and New York and in California, all those cities, and I mean, Atlanta, if you think they're not all like kind of in cahoots to some extent, you know, talking to each other and kind of monitoring how one city handles things, they're obviously going to do that. And if it happens and they get it in play in Chicago, it's right behind. It's going to be in New York and everywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. So Chicago has what we're talking about before. So we set the stage. Chicago is exploring the idea of opening up government-owned grocery stores to solve the problem of the food desert that they have, which is not a word you typically kind of link to a city, but that's the term that they're using for areas where there's no grocery stores, no technical accessibility to food. So the food desert that they have, that the city has actually created for its citizens. Mm-hmm. And these grocery stores will be owned by the city. The people working there will be employed by the city. And the city will be controlling what goods go into them and how much they charge for those goods.
Yeah. It sounds like a great idea. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
We're from the government and we're here to help, right? Those are those famous words that we all just get so excited about because they run everything so efficiently.
Yes. And if anybody who's had anybody involved with the government, I think nobody wastes money better. Oh. And if you don't know this, you need to now know this. Nobody wastes money better than the federal government. Repeat after me.
Yeah, waste money, lose money. I mean, they just lose money. Yeah. How often do you hear about the Pentagon, can't find this, $20 million. They just gone. Poof.
Poof. Poof. So we're going to, I'm going to play a quick clip here. And this is a News 3 clip, a little news brief here from Next News Network. All right, about just about this whole topic.
And the free Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is taking government overreach to a new level. The mayor is partnering with the Economic Security Project to explore a government-owned grocery store, claiming it will assist historically underserved communities. This is a slap in the face to capitalism and the free market. The mayor says he's all about food equity, but what he really wants is government control over your shopping cart. The idea is also suspect at best. Take West Town, for instance. Less than 1% of residents there live far from a grocery store, proving the market is already solving this so-called problem. Don't be fooled by the feasibility study either. It's just a ploy to appease taxpayers. This isn't about fixing a food inequity. It's about asserting government control and undermining the very principles that made this country great. Dive deeper. Get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio.
Yeah.
What do you think about that soundbite? Well,
I mean, I think at least she gets it because, obviously she's not buying it and their reasoning. Man, there's so many issues with this. First of all, why would we need this? What would be the main reason for needing this?
Well, for the reason to need anything is to solve a problem.
Okay.
That's what you need to dial to first, right?
So why do they have this, grocery store shortage?
Because they cannot control the crime.
No. True. That's the reason the stores left.
Yes.
But are the cities trying to control the crime?
No.
Have they prosecuted anybody that's robbed or shoplifted or stolen from these openly stolen as, you see all these videos. I mean, if you haven't seen all the videos, of just people just stealing from stores and the employees are powerless to do anything, they just sit there and record and you just watch them just, stack up shopping carts and walk out and the city does nothing. Mm-hmm. Okay. They do absolutely nothing to go after these people and prosecute them. So they've set the stage for them, emboldening these people to do it. They go out and do it every day because they know they're not going to get in trouble.
And some cities, I don't know how Chicago is, but I know very specifically San Francisco. San Francisco, a store owner is not allowed to confront the shoplifter for, fear of a violent or aggressive interaction. Like, are you kidding me right now?
I mean, they go so far as to set dollar values that they won't, go after you for if you just steal so much, whatever, under $1,000, under $1,500, whatever. Like, let's tell the people that if you steal, $1,100 worth of stuff and not 15, it's fine. We're not going to do anything. Let's just tell people that.
Yeah.
What sense?
What sense?
Freaking world does that make any sense?
I'll let you know when I figure it out. But
so they've created the problem. They've created the crime problem, and which has now driven big companies like Walmart and Targets and other grocery stores out of those communities. And now they sit and cry and say, woe is me, we don't have any. We're in a food desert because there's no stores here, because these big stores, they don't care about, the minorities of the community and blah, 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 all that bogus crap. So they create the problem, and now they get to swoop in and try to act like they're going to solve the problem. But they're not going to solve the problem because they're still not trying to solve the crime.
Right. And, the blame is going to fall on, say, listen, I have a love-hate relationship with Walmart because Walmart provides a lot of jobs in the U.S., but I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that they do. But in this situation, like, so say the blame falls on Walmart from the government, right? Well, you pulled out and, you left these people. Well, I mean, Walmart came out and said, we haven't had a profitable store in the south side of Chicago in years. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, they're providing jobs for people in the south side of Chicago and goods and services, for the people of the south side of Chicago, hanging out, not making a profit. They finally said enough is enough. And now they're gone. Those jobs are gone, right?
Yeah.
And those goods and services are gone. Those benefits are gone. The property is now vacant. Just the fallout, just from this, right? So it's one of those things that they have created a problem so that they could craft the solution.
Well, yeah, because it's almost like things they've been plotting for forever, because think of the control it gives them if they control the food source for the people, and the mercy that it puts the people at. And then you just think about the horror stories of other, socialist nations where they have this, and you're essentially end up in a food line, and you're waiting for them to give you, your loaf of bread or whatever it is that they're willing to give you that day. It escalates. It's going to escalate.
It's going to escalate. I mean, people are like, oh, things couldn't get that expensive. Venezuela was, under super inflation, where at one point eggs were a week's worth of salary, and people were just like, we just can't eat. So do not think for a minute, that we are immune, that this country is immune to hyperinflation at this point in time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying eggs are going to be, $150 a carton here, but that I could easily see them being $20 or $25 a carton.
Yeah. Carolyn and I just went to Murphy's, which is one of our local grocery stores, which I like, but they're always more expensive.
Love-hate relationship. I like to support them, but they are expensive.
They are expensive, but they're also not a giant chain. They're a local chain, so they have a handful of them, but they're not a huge chain. They're not a big giant ShopRite or a Walmart or whatever. So I kind of understand that, and I don't go there for everything and do major shopping there, but it's local, it's close. You go there, grab a couple nights worth of food or whatever. Man, we got one of those little tiny push carts, the little, just the little express ones. I mean, we put in, we got the ingredients to make chili, and then a few different things for this week for, some proteins for the week. $106 for this little tiny basket of food that's not even like a week's worth of food. $106.
2 grocery bags, I bet.
I mean, well, I wouldn't know because we're not allowed to have grocery bags in this.
Another topic,
but yeah, I mean, if that, 2 grocery bags probably, and it's $106. So I just say that just to point out how everybody's dealing with inflation. The cost of food and inflation. But so let's say they put this into play, right? Now, are we supposed to believe that their food prices are going to be fair and affordable? Is that what we're supposed to believe?
Well, of course that's what we're supposed to believe, because that's what they're saying. That's their whole reason for doing this.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
You don't think that is you don't think that's their reason for doing this? And going into the shoplifting, I just want to dial it back just a quick second to that. Do not think that you live someplace right now that is immune from this.
Oh God, no.
I was in our local Lowe's, right, yesterday, and Lumberton, New Jersey, our local Lowe's. Lumberton's a middle class town. Maybe some upper class people live in Lumberton, but for the most part, Lumberton, I think, is like a middle class town. All of the wire, all of the copper wire, all of the electrical wire, anything that was like small is now locked up behind a cage. I was like, when did that happen? I walked down another aisle. There was a bunch of small building supplies, nails and stuff, locked up behind a cage.
Yeah.
When do you ever remember being in a store, like a Lowe's or a Home Depot or any kind of like a hardware store, and seeing, remember we used to have like the drawers of nuts and bolts, that stuff being locked up?
No, I mean, the only thing that I ever remember really being locked up was the power tools.
Right.
High dollar items like that. But I mean, Lumberton is basically right next to Mount Holly.
It is, but it's not Chicago. It's
No.
It's not a city. It's not New York.
But these things aren't just happening in just the big.
No,
you know what I mean?
I know.
It's everywhere now. You're like, to your point. You're not safe. You think you're in the suburbs. It's nice here. It's little middle white America. Like, no, man. It's coming to you. It's everywhere. It's everywhere, and it's just so. So they put this in, they start getting this going. You start having more of these in some of the cities, right? They're going to like it. They're going to like the control. So then what stops the government from creating more regulations for these other, these stores that, now it's not just in the city, right? So now the stores have been pushed out of the city or have left, and the government stores are in the city. But now they want control of the stores in the suburbs too. So what's to stop them from creating such crazy regulations that they start really making it difficult for the grocery stores in the suburbs?
There's really nothing,
right?
I mean, once you're tapping into it, I mean, you're kind of tapping into it, right? It's, it's like when in the early 80s, when the Supreme Court like eased regulations with Chevron, and like private business just took over everything, and our whole entire world changed in the early 80s, coming out of Carter, going into Reagan. So there is we know from history, and even though obviously not everybody applies history to their learnings, we know from history, when given an inch, they will take a mile.
Yeah, they're not going to be satisfied with some power at that point. They're going to want complete and total, and not just in the cities. They're going to want it over all the grocery stores. So they're going to find a way to just put grocery stores out of business. So now they're needed everywhere. They're needed in the suburbs, and next thing you know, that's all we have.
Exactly. And what do we know about? There's a couple other things here. What do we know about like the government? Like, how does the government buy stuff?
How do they buy stuff?
Right. Contract, bid.
Oh God.
They're not buying stuff from the small farm. No. Like Murphy's, our local places, getting their corn from local farmers, and you're seeing Jersey grown stuff. Do you think where do you think the government's going to buy food from?
They're going to have a handful of specifically picked, vendors that they buy from, that they have contracts with, and those prices are going to be ridiculous. I've seen it in my own work life, working government contracts.
And every couple of years, they're going to go out for RFP, right? Request for purchase, for people who don't know what RFP stands for in the corporate world. And they're going to go out for RFP, and companies are going to come in and they're going to bid on that. Say they're going to bid on that Chicago food contract, right? And who's the contract going to go to?
Well, it's usually the lowest bidder.
The lowest bidder.
Yeah.
It's not going to go to the guy with the best corn or the best meat or the best pork. It's going to go to the guy who's, GMOing his chickens to grow in 2
Not
months.
only that, typically they underbid to get it, and then they end up not being able to actually provide that service for that price. So then they start gouging the government for like these over and above prices on what it just snowballs. It snowballs because they can't do it for what they said. They just wanted to win the contract, and it's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah,
it sounds horrible. I don't.
So
this was your idea to talk about this, by the way.
It was my idea, but it's pertinent. Honestly, I feel like a lot of people don't realize that this is happening, and happening right under our noses. So the government controls the food. They're going to control where the food comes. They're going to control how much, they charge for the food, because they're only going to pay whatever that lowest bidder is going to be, right? The other thing they're going to control is not only do they control the people and the food they're getting, they're going to control the people who are now working there, because they're going to have to employ some people, who are now not going to be employed by private industry. They're going to be employed by whatever government entity is running this store. So in this case, it could be the city of Chicago. I wanted to say the shitty of Chicago, but it is
one and the same.
You know, they're going to be employed by the city of Chicago. Now, they're just, it's crazy to me. This one thing has layered them into the people, you know, 5 layers deep.
Yeah.
And people don't see it coming.
Does anybody ever stop and take a look at the different things that the government does run, you know, and how poorly it's run? Like,
yeah.
Look at the post office.
Well, that's what they compared this to, the post office.
The post office sucks. It's horribly run. They're not making money. So they're basically the same exact thing as FedEx and UPS, who are just making money hand over fist. Mm-hmm. But yet you always hear about how the USPS is like in debt, losing money. Like it's a disaster. They can't make money, but FedEx and UPS can.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Explain. I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, FedEx and UPS aren't delivering those small packages. They're delivering, you know, they're delivering the big ones. And I have a separate hate issue.
They deliver plenty of small packages.
Well, they're not delivering envelopes for the most part, though.
Understood.
You know?
But there's no reason that they couldn't be getting more if they were doing a better job of it. But you lose everybody's envelopes, so they're not going to send your packages.
Yes. Like, I love the talking about the United States Postal Service. I love the fact of somebody says, well, if you believe that strongly in mail-in ballots, why don't you put $1,000 check and mail it to yourself?
Yeah. So I see like weekly how bad they are. They can't even. I get someone else's mail several times a week.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so then, am I not supposed to think that I'm not getting some of my mail? If you're giving me other people's mail, how do I know other people aren't getting my mail? They are 100%.
Oh yeah. I feel like
that's something as simple as just bringing it to the right address. But they're gonna control and run your grocery stores.
They're gonna screw it up. I feel like our mail down here. Sometimes we get other people's mail, not too often. When we lived in North Jersey, it was a crapshoot, man. Every day you got other people's mail. Every day. It was like, how hard is it? But apparently it's hard. I mean, I guess I don't know. I mean, you know,
we've gone to the post office to complain, and they always have a story about something to do with the driver being not full time on that route, and that route's coming up for bid soon, and there's going to be a permanent driver, so that problem should stop. Well, we got the permanent driver, still have the problem. Like it.
That's because your permanent driver was one of your old temp drivers.
Oh, it's terrible. I don't understand how people could think that this could possibly go right.
So,
like, is there anybody that's like are excited about this possibility? Like, is there people out there? Anybody listening? You know, put it in the comments. Let us know. Like,
who wants the?
Do you want this?
My opinion of this all is the government already has enough control over the food source and the food regulations, and the FDA is, and this is actually a whole separate podcast that I really want to do. And I want to bring Stacy in for this one because she knows a lot about what happens on the branding and that kind of, you know, that side of it and how different brands and they change recipes and the whole FDA thing. So I want to definitely probably bring her in for that one, but my favorite line. You know,
definitely,
probably, definitely, maybe. So the, you know, the government, I mean, they control things like we can't buy raw milk because raw milk might kill you, you know? So, you know, the COVID vaccine's fine. That could kill you. You know, swimming in a pool. You know, lots of kids can drown swimming in a pool. But raw milk, man, God forbid, man, raw milk is bad. The dairy industry needs to be protected. You know, there's so many things that the government has its hands in and has so much control over. I think the average American probably doesn't think about or doesn't know about or maybe doesn't want to think about, but it affects you every day, the regulations they have in place.
I think most people think if they just don't think about it, it won't affect them. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. I mean, just talking to people, friends who try to avoid political talk at all costs, and they just think if they kind of bury their head in the sand, it doesn't affect my life. That's crazy.
Yeah. So, to my surprise, this is not the first municipal run, government run grocery store. Wouldn't be the first grocery program in the country run by the government. There was one in Baldwin, Florida, and a couple in Kansas. And Baldwin, Florida, I guess, was a small town, 3,000 people. They had one grocery store, probably similar to what Murphy's, that closed down. And I can't imagine it was that far in the middle of nowhere, but somehow the town turned around, opened up a grocery store, and that's what it was. And all those people work for the town, and it is what it is. I don't know any more than the fact that it exists and it started in 2019.
Okay. Small town, small number of people. Right. Can't imagine that store was very big at all.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and all those people are employed by the town. So, and that brings me back. There's three business models that seem common among these stores, or three business models that they're exploring for these government-run stores. The one is the charge of membership dues.
Because the inner city folks can afford that?
I'll get there in a minute.
Okay.
But one is to charge membership dues. Sam's, Costco, that type of program. And we pay a Costco membership. Guys came to Costco with us once. I mean, Costco is one of those things you pay dues, you get a discount, but you kind of get what you get. There's some brands they have all the time, but a lot of stuff they'll get a deal on something and they'll buy it and that'll be it. The other one is food banks and donations. Right. So instead of people having a food bank, they're actually, now here's the government. The government's going to have people who bought their food, who donate food to a food bank, then donate it back to the government to then sell to the people. Can we process that for a minute?
Yeah, it sounds like that sounds just like a government system there.
That sounds like the best Ponzi scheme. I mean, there's got to be people who've gone to jail for less in this country.
Oh my gosh.
The other one they're going to do, the other thing that they'll do is they'll take advantage of SNAP benefits. So SNAP benefits are Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, which is basically the modern day name for food stamps, right? And in Chicago, to be eligible for food stamps, there's a couple of different numbers here. If you're a household of one, you have to make less than $18,900. If you're a household of two, $25,636. 3, $32,318. Or a household of four, $39,000 a year to be eligible.
Okay.
What I do know about government cutoffs, by the way, and we don't have to go into the food stamp tangent, that if you're a household of four and you're making $45,000 a year, you are not eligible. $40,000 a year, you are not eligible.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're hard lines. I know this because I've explored this in New Jersey and trying to get my mom transportation to different places, and she is like $300 above the cutoff that she needs.
Wow.
To qualify for transportation. And she had to pay for that transportation. Transportation would be $500 a week. But because she's $300 above that cutoff, there's no prorate, there's no nothing. You just don't get it.
Wow.
So that's how they work. The other way is a combo of volunteers, donations, and grants. Grants being non-specific. I would assume they're going to be government grants.
Of course.
I would assume that, right? So now the government could have people volunteering time to distribute the food that was donated that they are going to charge people for. Is that a stretch? Is that a stretch of me to think that way?
No.
Is that,
No, it's not. Not at all. Government runs some of the best Ponzi schemes out there.
Oh my God. Social Security, by the way, is the biggest one. Later topic. Social Security's Ponzi scheme. So Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, I can't like, I can't even wrap my head around it that they, you know, it's so interesting, you know, how things happen and you look at it. And, you know, over 2020, when we saw the liberals make this move to defund the police, we saw the crime increase like it couldn't be controlled. But then when not controlling the crime wasn't enough, we then saw the next step, which was actually to embrace the crime.
Oh yeah.
Right. So we've created an atmosphere for higher crime. We didn't control the crime. That didn't have the impact we wanted. So now we like the crime. We're going to embrace the crime. We're not going to punish people for the crime. There's going to be no consequence for the crime. And now we've created this atmosphere that capitalist private business cannot survive in because they cannot make money. And now they are leaving the communities. And now the government has created an environment to where the citizens must be dependent upon them.
Go figure. I mean, haven't they been railing against capitalism forever now? That side of the line.
Oh yeah.
You know, so this is perfect best case scenario for them. They created, like you said, that atmosphere that capitalism can't survive in, and now they swoop in and do what they wanted to do the whole time.
And the Democrats will own that vote.
Yeah.
Because they're providing the people with food.
Yeah.
The short sight.
For real. So the National Review, I guess, did an article about this, and they kind of ripped on them because basically they're saying, you know, they can't handle their crime problem, which is the biggest cause of this. Obviously, we talked about that.
Yeah.
They have a huge issue. They have some huge debt on their pension system, I guess, in Chicago.
And they're not alone in that.
That they can't solve. All right. They can't balance their budget, and they're like a half $500 million in debt, or, you know, in deficit there. So they can't balance their budget. They can't do any of that stuff, but then they're going to take this on and they're going to run it just perfectly fine.
And make sure everybody gets fed.
And it'll be great. We'll all just be fat and happy.
You know. And a pension system, again, Chicago pension system. People pay into a pension system. You're paying into that pension system. That money is then supposed to grow. It's invested by the city. But they can't afford to pay out what they owe because they've used money, right? Mm-hmm. And the SEC would call that a Ponzi scheme. If you invest with an investor who then uses your money and you want to withdraw your money and your money's not there because it's somewhere else working for that investor, not available to you, that's a problem.
Yep.
But yet here we are, and Chicago's not immune to that. Chicago's not immune to that. John Corzine squandered the pension of the toll workers with his prior company when I forget who he worked for, but he invested it. And then when the market took a big dip, the toll worker pension took a big dip. And welcome Easy Pass. Now we're not going to have any toll workers or toll worker pensions.
Yeah.
You know, it's you know, and don't think Easy Pass doesn't stem from the fact that the city is looking long term, like, hey, we can get rid of these people. We do not have to pay them benefits. We do not have to pay them pension. We don't have to pay them anything. Mm-hmm. Instead, we're going to have somebody working in an office, looking at screenshots, send a mail to people for violations.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
So, I mean, that's the big thing. And I think as the weeks go on, I feel like you're going to see more and more of this. They are going to make a push for this. This is not going to be just in Chicago. The company that I work with, we have a conference coming up, the whole cardiology conference. Cardiology community has a huge conference coming up in San Francisco next month, and we had booked to have a educational reception at a restaurant that has now informed us they'll be closing.
Wow.
I was just talking to another coworker the other day who had booked another dinner for a speaker at a restaurant in San Francisco that was informed last week that restaurant will be closing.
San Francisco.
San Francisco's a mess.
So the stuff we see on TikTok and Instagram is not just fake news.
What?
It's real? It's really a crap hole of a city?
It's real.
Never been. No desire to go.
Went to San Francisco. It was I will tell you, it was cool to see the bridge. I feel like the bridge is an iconic American piece. Not to go on too much of a tangent here, it was cool to see Alcatraz. I feel like Alcatraz is another historic, piece of America. Beyond that, it was not the San Francisco that I read about as a kid.
No?
Mm-mm. No, there were homeless people literally sleeping outside.
Oh man!
Outside what's the burger joint in California? Oh man, I can't remember the name of it right now. Somebody's gonna kill me.
In-N-Out?
Yeah, they were sleeping outside In-N-Out, and In-N-Out had a sign on the window that says, "Starting salary $24 an hour."
$24 an hour. Wow.
Now, that's $10 more an hour than I made when I came out of nursing school. Granted, that was obviously a long time ago, but the point, dude. The other thing that happens when you eat in the city of San Francisco is they basically put a worker's wage surcharge on your restaurant bill. Because
What kind of money is that?
They have
What's that look like?
It's like 6%, because they have to pay their workers more. They're not going to pay their workers more. You're going to pay their workers more.
Right.
So it's San Francisco is spiraled out of control. I feel like San Francisco is going to lead the urban collapse of this country, and a whole nother topic. But San Francisco is going to lead that urban collapse. And I feel like Chicago will not be second; it will be third behind the city of New York.
Yeah,
because I do think we're looking at a truly a collapse of urban life as we have historically known it for the past 200 years in this country.
Well, I know it will have huge effects on the nation, but as someone that doesn't live in the city or doesn't like the city and doesn't want to go there, like I don't necessarily feel sorry for them, but I do know it have a negative effect on the whole nation. So that's not good.
Certainly.
Not good at all. Man. So for those people who, were all for and were railing for them, jacking up these minimum wages, I hope you're not complaining about the cost of your food now. You should probably just sit there and be quiet, because that's part of what do you think happens now when these stores have to pay, these little stock boys and girls, the young people, $20+ an hour to do that job, which is not meant to be a career. Okay. Typically that kind of job goes to kids just getting in the workforce, or summer jobs, or older retired people that just want a little side gig to make a couple extra dollars. It isn't meant to live off of. And now you guys went and, pushed and pushed and pushed for these ridiculous minimum wage. And clearly the stores aren't going to pay that cost. It comes right back on us.
Yeah.
And now we're paying, $100 for 7 items at the grocery store.
Yeah, and it's not just there. I mean, smart. If I owned a business, I would be doing what I see smart businesses doing. Like, if you're going to force high wages, the government is going to inflate wages, which is what they're doing. The government's going to inflate wages. Well, then I'm going to take actions to insulate myself. Mm-hmm. And every one of these stores has taken actions to insulate themselves with self-checkout.
Self-checkout.
And at first you thought, oh,
how many
it's
jobs
cool.
did that cost?
Self-checkout. I don't have to wait in line. That was the first thing. Nobody used it.
Right.
But now it's like, son of a bitch, self-checkout. It's the only thing that's freaking open.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you go into CVS, there's not even somebody at the register. It's self-checkout. It drives me nuts. The self-checkout thing drives me nuts.
The shop right up here, they had all these, these, whatever you call them, checkout aisles. They had tons of them, and they were never all open anyway. But now they throw in the self-checkout, they cut that back to a few, and then next thing you know, they ripped out more of them to make another self-checkout section on the other side, and they just they might have one or two aisles open.
That'll be another contract bid. What contractor gets the government point of service self-checkout scanner machine contract. That'll be, I'm starting to think of like all like the, the things that go into, what's going to go into creating a functional government property. And
I like the memes and the reels about how, you force us to basically do your job, but we got to check ourselves out. So we're unpaid workers here. And then you have the audacity to question us of whether or not we did it properly and rank everything up. There's a lot of good ones out there on that, man.
Oh man, there's so much. And it's, it's just nuts. And so, I mean, we could go on about this for a hot minute, but, Canada has taken, Canada has taken quite a different approach to solving, their food, and they have an inflation problem in Canada, and it's not necessarily a supply and demand type of inflation with food, but they have some very expensive food in Canada. So the Canadian government, I'm going to play this clip by our favorite communist, Justin Trudeau, just north of the border, about his plan to help his citizens with the price of food. This is a good one. Listen up.
It's not okay that our biggest grocery stores are making record profits while Canadians are struggling to put food on the table. So Minister Champagne will be calling on the heads of large grocers to come to Ottawa with a plan to address the rising cost of food. And we expect to hear from them by Thanksgiving on what their plan is to stabilize prices. And it...
Cue applause.
And let me be very clear. If their plan doesn't provide real relief for the middle class and people working hard to join it, then we will take further action, and we are not ruling anything out, including tax measures.
Anything. Nothing. Wow.
Everything's on the table there. He said we're not ruling anything out. So I'm gonna go out on a limb here. Let's talk about a few anythings. One, we'll start with what he measured. So they're going to tax the grocers and the grocery companies that are charging the citizens too much for money in order to drive the price down. Is that? I mean, I don't have a degree in economics.
I think that'll work.
You think that'll work?
I think so.
To me, that sounds like you're a little bit pissed off that these people are making money and you're not.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, charging tax penalties are not going to help people charge less for food. It's just not going to.
I already discussed that. When in the history of capitalism have they ever eaten those kind of costs? Those government regulation, taxes, and they don't eat that cost. It always gets passed on.
It gets passed on to the people. That's the whole point. That's how the government makes the money. Then the companies make the money. The government makes money. It's just this is not new politics. But again,
that guy's high.
He's crazy. So, but again, he said they're not going to rule anything out. So are they going to do the whole government control thing of the groceries? Like how far are they away from that? I would put
anything past that dude and his entourage up there, man. They are some commies, and they will just like probably seize control of those businesses.
They are some commies. They
scary stuff.
And
man.
Mind you, so if you're not up to speed on the Justin Trudeau bus, Justin Trudeau seized the bank accounts of truckers that were protesting gas prices. Yeah. He seized their money that they earned. He seized it. Now, I'm not saying the U.S. federal government hasn't done it to other countries.
They didn't commit a crime.
Right.
They protested.
Right. But they protested soundly enough where they disrupted the country. But regardless, there you go.
Peaceful protest.
It was a peaceful protest, and he seized their money.
Yeah.
So
I bet you there was some of the big name liberal politicians on this end that probably got really excited when he did that and started thinking about how they could do that.
Oh my God.
Come on.
And again, here is a politician who, make no mistake of it, all of his actions crushed the middle class. We have a president here, Joe Biden. His actions are crushing the middle class.
Yeah.
And here now,
that's blue collar Joe, man. He loves the middle class.
And blue collar Joe
back in Scranton.
Blue collar Joe is gonna go march with the UAW workers.
Marching anywhere.
Oh no, he's gonna
shuffle.
They're
slowly
walking. They're walking in a circle, so he can do the Sleepy Joe shuffle around that circle.
Where's the ice cream, man?
But again, I mean, here,
come on, man.
It's like everything you do crushes the middle class, but we're gonna go march with the workers, which is a whole nother topic. But here we are. It's like they have to say middle class in these speeches when they say it, and what they're doing really has no impact on helping them. No, it has an impact on the middle class, but it has zero help for the middle class. You taxing a grocery company is not going to help the middle class.
I don't know what to say.
If people are that stupid, they deserve to be broke.
Yeah. There's so many people that really just, the only thing they know when it comes to politics are the talking points that they get from CNN or MSNBC, and they truly believe, old Joe has got their best interest at heart, and they don't bother researching, they don't bother putting thought into it, and they just go with the flow and believe what they're told and
sheep
vote. Yeah, I mean,
sheep.
I know we said we didn't want every episode on here to be politics, and it won't be, but man, there's so many different political topics to kind of unpack that it's especially hard not to talk about it,
especially right now. Like, I mean, listen, we're in an election cycle. We're not in an election year, but we are in an election cycle, and things are hot. I mean, things are hot here in the U.S. There's a lot of stuff going on. We have a lot of topics that we want to tackle in the coming weeks forward, and we've talked about that. I mean, we're very kind of looking in. I'm starting to do some research when I'm in my travels about like election interference, and we want to talk about that kind of thing. And when I say election interference, don't get all fired up, because believe you me, it is not just one party doing it right now. Both parties are guilty of election interference, right or wrong, in my opinion, of what's going on. So that's a big thing. And, as election season heats up, man, social media platforms can get kind of funny. So, if you're asking what can you do, share this podcast, like this podcast, give this podcast, a good review. If you're listening to other podcasts that are talking about the same subjects, share them. Mm-hmm. It's how, it's how the message survives. It's how, you're not alone in, what you think and what you believe, if you agree with some of this stuff. And you're not alone if you disagree, quite frankly, but believe me, you're not alone if you agree either.
Yeah. And again, I mean, people say this all the time, but we all get wrapped up in, the big national elections, the federal stuff. And man, the best way to get some sort of change going is at your local level, man. Be involved. And I know I didn't do it as well as I would have liked to, when I was when my kids were younger, and when there was like school board things and stuff like that. But the local elections, and that's where it all starts, man. That's the driving force, and I think all too many of us ignore that. And the problem is you don't see commercials about it, right? Like your local stuff, your mayor and the local, whatever seats or whatever they have, all that, like you don't see anything about that. And then it comes time to vote and you don't know any of the names. And it's hard, because then you're like, well, who do I vote for, for these, this local, or just state stuff. Like you don't see a lot of that, the different state senators, or a lot of these different positions that you see, like the sheriff and things like that. Like you don't hear anything about it, and you don't know the names when they come out. So you don't even know if you're voting for someone who has even the remotest little slightest bit of, thinks the way you do, or, believes the things you believe. You don't even know, because you don't know who the people are. So some people won't even vote just because they don't know.
Which is the worst.
Which is not good. But, you could be voting and you're just kind of guessing at some of those names, or you're just voting down party line, which, is probably very common and normal. You don't know the person. They might suck, but they're your party. So, but the biggest thing is try to be more aware on the local level. And it's hard to do. I get it. There's not enough hours in the day to be sitting around doing research on your local politicians. But if you don't, I mean, that's where it starts. And all these, you know, small communities, it all stems from that. So,
and that's the word, community. You know, Stacy and I were just talking. You know, we had a hot topic in town when we first moved here, and we went to a couple of township meetings because of it, and we really haven't been back. But we want to start attending these township meetings again, or at least looking at them virtually. We have one coming up, I think, in a week or two here in the town. So, you know, the point is, your township has meetings. Go to the meetings, and like Burt was saying, you know, these people are. That's how you learn who these people are, because these people are probably going to be at those meetings. And we hear a lot of terms in politics like constituency, you know, or constituents, right? And the word you said is community. And individuals create a community, and communities create a constituency. And in theory, that's who politicians answer to.
Yeah.
On the local level.
Yeah.
On the local level. So, I mean, we live in a town, fortunately, that's big on civil liberties, you know, and big on individual rights, which in the state of New Jersey is kind of a rarity. So
yeah, but it's also,
you know,
it's one of those things that you're going to have to continue to work to protect, because I mean, even where we live, it's constantly growing. We're constantly getting that influx of people from the north, New York, you know, with their liberal mindsets and that mentality, and they're flowing this way because there's no room up there, right? Mm-hmm. So our small towns, our small farm towns down here in southern Jersey, which I don't think most people know even exists, but you know, everybody thinks smokestacks and whatnot when they think New Jersey. But it's just a matter of time. We're seeing the buildup. Mm-hmm. You know, on our major roads, you know, you see the warehouses and all this. I mean, those warehouses, and then with those warehouses come these big apartment complexes, and then those get filled up with people coming down and working in those, and they're coming from the liberal city, and they're bringing that mindset. And it don't take long. It don't take long for it to flip, man.
It don't take long. Yeah. And listen, I'm all about, I don't mind you coming down to like enjoy where we live, but leave your politics in the place that you didn't want to live. Because
it's the craziest thing, right? And you hear that all the time. Just, people get fed up with California and they're leaving, they're going to Texas, but then they go to Texas and they bring those political, you know, mindset, that methodology, they bring that with them, and it's mind-boggling. Like, you left it because you didn't like it because of the way it was being run. And then you came to the great place that you think is cool and awesome, and then you want to turn that into the place you left. How dumb are we? Like, how dumb are people?
I can't. I mean, it doesn't make a whole ton of sense to me, but it's if you don't want to be controlled, you got to stand up for community in a place that you live. That's not necessarily 100% like that. And you know, a whole nother topic, you know, could you provide for your family should there have been a food shortage? And
most people can't.
Most people cannot.
Most people wouldn't even know how.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and act like I would thrive in it. I mean, I think I would do better than some, but I mean, it's we're just so coddled and set in our ways of just, you know, going to the store and just having everything provided for us. I mean, even maybe for purchase, but it's all there, you know, like people don't, man, I got to grow something. I got to hunt something.
I'm not afraid,
you know? I mean, I think it would be, it might not be a horrible thing.
Hence the word community.
We weed out the people that can't survive in that lifestyle.
And we send them off to the government controlled supermarkets in the cities.
I would prefer to call them a concentration camp we could send them to.
Here.
Yeah. So, but keep an eye out on this, man. This is an interesting thing. Like we said, it hasn't happened yet, but I mean, they're talking about it, and they obviously are gonna push for it, and they're doing their studies to figure out how they can implement it. But man, it's a thing. So start looking at that, start listening for it, start paying attention to it, because it could be in your neighborhood soon.
I think this happens after the 2024 election.
Well, that's always all the crap happens after
I think this is the build-up. This is the feeler. This is the foundation. And I think this happens after the 2024 election.
It's a big election, man, and there's going to be a huge build-up to it. There's going to be a lot of different topics to talk about. I can think of a crap ton of topics to talk about when it comes to this next election. So, I mean, we'll be talking about it. And I hope you guys are paying attention, man, because this is going to be a pretty important one. And they say, yeah, I know we say this every time, but it just keeps, with each election, things get a little bit worse, and you hope you're paying attention. I mean, I miss the 80s.
Oh man. So listen, thanks for getting with us this far, this deep into the podcast. You know, please, like I said, give us a like on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. Leave us a good review. And again, a like is as many stars as they offer. That's a good like. We had a guy leave us a great review and left us 1 star. And I know it wasn't your intention, but he left us a very positive review on Apple. He was like, "These guys are great. Here's 1 star." So as many stars as they offer, and share this. You can share these episodes to anybody you know. And if you're watching us on YouTube, sitting here behind this desk drinking some whiskey, you can give us a subscribe and a like, and let us know what you think, or if God forbid you live in one of these neighborhoods where you might have to buy your food off the government.
Yeah, God forbid. But hey, like we said, man, we're open to talking about like anything that affects average folks. So if you have ideas, if you have things you'd like to hear us talk about, you have things that you'd like to hear our opinion on, feel free, leave a comment, send us an email at This American Ride. 1776 at Gmail. Send us an email. You know, let us know what you'd like to talk about, what you want to hear about. Again, we're trying not to completely bombard you with politics, but it is something that's kind of near and dear to our hearts, and we think, you know, we talk about amongst ourselves a lot, so it's just things that we're interested in. But we're more than happy to talk about other things. If you have any great ideas, let us know.
All right, and on that note, man, we'll catch you in the next one.
Later.